How's it going, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to Chart Request Live. This is the People's Show. It's also our favorite show. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 o'clock. Today, we're flipping the script on you guys. Pat is going to come do the live charting. I'm going to moderate the chat. You ready for this, bro?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to screw it up. What do you think?
Come on. So, Patrick is like one of my favorite CMTs. So I'm excited for this. Let's hit it.
All right. So, I mean, first chart, I just pulled up Tesla. I just wanted to check on that. Man, first of all, I can't believe there weren't more Tesla coil jokes, but this thing was pinched up and it's clearly resolving lower today. What do you think of that? I'm sure you guys talked a lot about it on the morning show.
I think that their earnings report was a disaster. But, I mean, you know me. I never trade the stock.
Right.
This one's just always been too wild for me. And frankly, this is probably like one of the biggest misses of my career. If we all just bought this thing like 10 years ago, we could be retired.
Right.
So mixed emotions, but yeah, you're right. Look, what do we say about diagonal trend lines like this? They matter, but it's not the end of the world.
Right. I think you'd probably be wanting to watch this level more so. And you know how these patterns work. I mean, 2 weeks from now, we could look at this thing and this thing could be back in the coil, or, those coils can play tricks on you. So it's not the most reliable pattern, but definitely something to be aware of.
Netflix beat.
Netflix did beat.
Are they holding their gains? Check that out.
Ooh, look at that. And you know what's funny, Steve, is heading into earnings, I would have picked Tesla. Just going off the technicals, I would have picked Tesla over Netflix, but these earnings reports can be really tricky to trade, even as a technician, right?
I got to tell you, Netflix's report was not impressive.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see it up so much. Good for them, 16%.
This is one of those stocks, too, that makes a majority of its moves around earnings reports, and then it just sits around until the next.
Right.
So, what, if you weren't in it, then
it's a super gappy issue, right? Like, we talk about how stocks have character. They all have like a different kind of behavior. Netflix gapping all over the place. You see it on the left-hand side here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, before we jump in, one more. The earnings report I was most impressed with from last night or this morning, not Netflix, obviously not Tesla, AT&T. Throw it up, flip it to a monthly. First, there you go. Nice, monthly,
right? Let's do it.
Look at this.
Ooh, that is interesting. And I know you wouldn't be saying anything nice about a telecom unless you actually really believe that it was a nice move. Look at that RSI divergence down here. I like this, Steve.
Talking about how Tesla might be one of my worst calls, this has probably been one of my better ones. Been bearish this thing forever. It's been terrible. But if there was ever a time or a place to get involved, I do like this 15 level.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I think 15 could even get you back to the top of the range, which is a double right here from 15 to 30. Whew.
Dude. And, they'll probably pay you some sort of a dividend along the way. Maybe not what they're currently saying they'll pay, but
7.75, almost 8%. Wow.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll see about that.
So now that we're done with our charts, just high level, I think the market's a little bit vulnerable here. Like for me, this is like we're on rollover watch. I don't know where your head is based on the recent price action.
It hasn't given us a decisive resolution yet. I mean, going into this week and even last week, this gap right here was kind of the objective, the most immediate term objective, the thing that the bulls needed to deal with the most. And you can see we've tried, couldn't do it. And like you said, kind of looking more vulnerable now.
Great point. And I love the tactical level there, right? Because just a few weeks ago and a few months ago and all year, we were talking about very different levels. But now over a shorter time frame, 44, right? What is that, 43.90?
Yeah, I've been calling it 4,400 just as an all clear. I think, if we're getting real precise, I think it's like 398 or something like that. But call it 4,400.
All right. Let's get into the people's charts now.
Let's do it.
First, from an email request, Toll Brothers, TOL.
So these home builders, they were hot in the first half of the year. I'm sure you guys know, but they've pulled back since. This one, so with these home builders, you want to see if they're holding their former highs or not. So we can draw it right here, kind of flirting. Little too soon to call it a fail breakdown. I guess you could, but it's also showing this nice little momentum divergence here. You know, could we get a little scoop and score action? Yeah, but you want to see it reclaim that 75-ish level.
And now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would put all-time highs back in sight, but until then, kind of a precarious spot.
I always like to look for like where would confirmation be. So like if this was a top, zoom out a tiny bit and go to that first peak in 2021, draw a horizontal line there.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that line up with the pivot lows?
Oh, that's a good like right here, you're saying these last two?
I think it's a can't touch below there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then to get into like a potential failed top, which is what this would have to be if you wanted to be long, let it start working first, right? Let it start moving in the right direction and then buy a little bit of strength.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the playbook here. And like I said, I mean, short term, this is kind of what you want to see if it's going to stick this level. So we'll see again in the next couple weeks, but not the worst, not the best either. And kind of to be expected after the first half performance it had.
And also, I mean, it almost goes without saying these days, but you got to be mindful of earnings this time of the quarter. And for Toll Brothers, they're already through it. Doesn't come up until December.
That's a great point. That's a great point. You have it in the rearview mirror. Yeah, early December. Yeah, that's a great point.
Insurance, Progressive.
Okay. All right. PGR.
Pat, why don't you throw up the index first for context?
Yeah, let's do that. IAK. You could also use, what's the other one?
KIE.
AIE. That's right. Yeah. So these insurance stocks have been a real area of relative strength, not only in the broader market, but within financials too. And, you know, financials have definitely not been one of the stronger sectors. If anything, they've been one of the weaker sectors this year. So a pocket of strength in an otherwise dull area, that's, you know, something to pay attention to, because if it does turn around for financials, you're going to want to be in the ones that held up the best, because if they held up the best through a headwind, once that headwind's removed, they should do even better. So anyway, yeah, as Steve mentioned, and I believe Progressive is one of the top 5 holdings in IAK, but the whole sector is breaking out to an all-time high here. Nice little 1-year base, over 1 year, or consolidation, whatever you want to call it, within an uptrend, and it looks like it's trying to resume that uptrend. So if we look at PGR, here we go. That one looks even stronger than the sector. We can look at it on a relative basis after, but Steve, you know what type of gap that is.
It's a breakaway.
That's a breakaway gap. That's the most bullish type of gap you can have. And for those of you who don't know, a breakaway gap, like I said, most bullish gap you can have, but it happens when you gap above resistance like that, gap above these former highs, and then keeps going like that. And I mean, like you saw NVIDIA's breakout earlier this year. That was a breakaway gap. What was one recently we had?
And they typically happen, earnings is often the catalyst, like it was here, right? Yeah. So again, important to point out the earnings report is behind them now, right?
Right.
Something like this, RSI up in the 80s, let it cool off a little bit, let it start flagging. You get something high and tight, typically give you a good entry.
But, you know, as you had mentioned, earnings are out of the way now, so that's kind of nice. Maybe you want to be buying back to a retest if it gets back there. But if you do try to dabble with that retest on a potential retest, no guarantee it's going to get there, but you want to see it at least hold this gap here. I would start to get concerned even if it broke that earnings low here and started filling that gap. So
can't own below 147?
Can't own below 147. I think that's probably a good playbook. I just want to look at it on a relative basis. So this is PGR versus insurance, close to an all-time high, not quite there.
Zoom way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, oh, okay.
Secular
Okay,
leader. I mean, that's how you become one of the biggest insurance companies, right?
that's true. Yeah, that's a really good point. Like this should look like this, right? From a top component.
So we're going to hit the chat now. Just a programming note. The first ticker, I see you there, Matt. HNST. We can't really go there, right? That's out of our wheelhouse. This is I think it's $100 million stock. So try to keep them at least close to $1 billion. We could bend or break the rules every now and then for some. We'll pick and choose that, but 100 million, can't touch that. Way too small. That's like an ultra micro cap.
What I'm curious, what is the ticker?
HNST.
HMST. All right.
TMDX is next.
All right. TMDX. I have a feeling, yeah, I was gonna say feeling it's a biotech. A lot of those tickers that end in X tend to be biotechs. Not always, but all right. Man, this thing has gotten taken to the woodshed lately. Steve, do you know what they do or
Something medical?
yeah?
I'll tell you. Hold on.
All right. So this is your level to lean on right now. It's a little big if we draw it from the highs, draw it like that. But it was the 2021 highs here. It was support last October. Here we are leaning on it again. We can look at momentum here, improving a little bit, but not great to see it in oversold territory here. That's just a sign that, after this nice strong uptrend, it looks a little bit exhausted. And yeah, the momentum was there back on this initial retest here, but not quite as good looking in this scenario here.
Hey,
So,
Pat. Yeah.
you want to see it hold 40, 39, but if it can't, I don't have the most confidence on this retest. How do you
I like, it's a great point. I think you should flip back to Toll Brothers for context, right? Because you drew a similar line at the 2021 highs. However, the nature of this corrective action, very different from TMDX. In bull markets or in strong uptrends, momentum should not get oversold on corrective action. You see that here in the lower pain with Toll Brothers, like you were just saying with Transmedic or whatever, oversold like crazy, consistently.
Yeah,
Months.
that's a really good juxtaposition there.
Red flag. All right,
Red,
what's
red flag.
what do we got here? Where should we go from here? They love you in the chat, Pat. RRT, Range Resources.
Say it again.
Range Resources.
RRC. Ooh, hey now, Steve.
Listen, we're fishing in the right pond with this one, Alex.
Yeah,
Great pick.
sure are. I like this one a lot. So what do they do?
This is an E&P name.
Oh,
Believe
okay.
they have plenty of nat gas exposure too. Which actually, based on the chart, maybe I should take that statement back because most companies with a lot of nat gas exposure don't look as good. Let's see. Yeah, nat gas and oil properties in the Appalachian and mid-continent regions. I don't know what mid-continent. Company was founded in 1976.
Okay. So I mean, you have clear support way down here, but you don't want to be looking at that. I just got an earthquake warning system thing, but anyway. So nice.
Did you just say I just got an earthquake warning?
Yeah, I think it was a test though, but anyway, if things start shaking, you know what's going on. So nice 1.5 year long base here, clear support at 23, clear resistance at 37 here, 36, 37. You zoom way out, nice uptrend here. Definitely probably has some overhead supply from these prices. Now let's take note of this level here. It was the lows and it was the highs here, 45.
Hey, Pat, yeah. Why don't you fib that?
Yeah, I was going to say, fib the base here?
I think you might like what you see. No, don't fib the base. Go all the way back to those old highs.
Ooh, okay.
That bad boy.
Fib it up. And by the way, Steve, I love that you've made a verb out of this. Oh my gosh, look at that.
How do I know Fibonacci works, Pat? I get this question sometimes.
Why do you think?
Because I've seen enough charts look like this over the years. Right. So it ran up off of those 2020 lows, right? And what we're laughing about here is ran straight up into the 38% retrace and then straight sideways for what, a year, almost two now?
Two, yeah. Wow. And you know the playbook with these 38.2, if you get that usually gets you to your 61.8. If you get the 61.8, that tends to get you back to all-time highs or back to one, right?
Right.
So that is a good looking chart. 37 is clearly your level. Once it's above there, it could go to 60, which that's some very nice upside from here. I mean, that's hasn't broken out yet, but that's what, 70% upside? My gosh. From an E&P name. Wow.
And you got a really clean entry point. So I like this one a lot. We'll probably put a trade out on this ASAP.
Yeah.
TXT is next. Textron. We got a lot here. So let's.
All right. Let's also. TXT. Ooh, another good one. Another good one. All right. Clear level here at 70, 71.
So this is a A&D name, Pat. A lot of buzz around these guys lately. Are you seeing them pop up on your scans too?
I have seen them before on the scans, but what is an A&D name? What do you mean?
Aerospace and defense.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Whenever a war or any sort of geopolitical event takes place, you tend to hear a lot about the A&D names, at least on social and with our trending scans.
Yeah, for sure. So this one, nice little, I don't know if you want to call it cup and handle, but formed a nice little base after it couldn't break out here. And that's kind of the action you want to see, you know, from a failed breakout like this, which this was, you know, you could have seen a really sharp reaction lower. Instead, you just saw correction through time. You know, over here to the right, you have a little bit of a bull flagish forming here.
Yep. Love that. Love to see that. Right above support too, former resistance.
Right. And do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like when you see a consolidation forming above support or above a breakout level versus below.
Yeah, you know, JC's been really big on that and has written a lot about it over the years. But I will channel my inner JC right now and say, you know, it is a lot more bullish when a stock or an asset can break out, get above a key polarity level, like in this case. What is it in TXT? 76?
70. Ooh, I mean, the all-time highs, I'd say, is, yeah, it's called 72, 73.
Anyway, you get the reclaim of a key polarity zone, and then you get a high and tight sort of digestion or consolidation that stays above it. Just uber bullish, right? So we like that a lot more than maybe something that would break out and then start consolidating below a key level.
Right, and have that kind of messy, choppy price action.
It speaks to the underlying bid or the underlying demand for that asset, right?
Right. Buyers are refusing to let it go, get too cheap, basically.
Like a corollary to today's action would be something like Meta or Google, right? We had this corrective action all summer. These guys just went straight sideways, real tight. It just speaks to the bid in that stock. So then when things cool off, there you go. Little launch pad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go back. Now, zoom way out. Zoom all the way out.
On Textron? This is a monthly right here.
Just kind of reinforcing the importance of this breakout level. You got the pre-financial crisis highs.
Ooh, yeah. Wow. You could carry those all the way back there.
Looks like XLF.
It sure does. Yeah.
Right?
It sure does. Yeah. Just for reference, that's what he's talking about right here. And it's not a financial. That's funny.
We should overlay those.
Yeah.
All right. Take-Two Interactive, TTWO.
Ooh.
These video game makers, they're like, this is like old growth. It's like old tech. It kind of breaks my heart, right? Because I loved all these companies when I first started investing in the market because I used to play a ton of video games as a kid. Take-Two, this is, you know what they made? You know what they're famous for?
This is Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah, man.
Boy, man, that game.
Ugh. What was the best one? The Vice City one, right?
I liked Vice City a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Man, that game. You can't play it for too long because then you just feel deranged after a while.
I mean, that's Vice City was Metaverse Miami before Metaverse Miami, right?
That is a great way to put it here. But yeah, definitely has lost momentum over the last 5 years. Maybe it's maturing as a growth company, as Steve mentioned, kind of that transitioning phase from it's maturing, it's getting older. Um, maybe people aren't playing Grand Theft Auto as much, who knows? But I don't love the fact that it's kind of making a right shoulder here. I know myself and I know I'm quick to point out Head and Shoulders, so I don't want to call it a Head and Shoulders yet, but not loving the fact that it can't breach those 2021 highs. But it is improving. It is holding above this nice level here. Now, if this does continue forming that right shoulder, let's say we get a drop here, then I mean this 85-ish level, 86, that would be the neckline here. And if it breaks that, then I think you could go much lower, maybe even down to these great financial crisis highs right here, around 30. But we're not there yet. So
You're talking about a $140 stock maybe hitting 30.
It's possible, man. I've seen crazy. I mean, think about how much of a darling something like a PayPal was, or something like that, and that thing's just been, even with the broader market recovery, this thing can't catch a bid.
All right. The next one is for Wavy, and I think he's just as bearish as you sound right now. He's talking about a gap getting filled in Toll Brothers at 42. These are your market leaders. 42.
Yeah, 42. Oh man. Yeah, see, I don't know about that. I'm not that bearish, Wavy.
I'm just breaking stones. Wavy has a incredible knack for finding good shorts, right? So today he's talking about PRG on the short side.
PRG. All right, let's see what you got, Wavy. PRG. I'd be interested to see what he sees in this. On the flip side, we got a little bit of a bullish momentum divergence, but it's getting awfully close to filling that gap there. So if it does break that 28-ish level, 28, that could get you all the way down to 25. If you're comfortable shorting that, then yeah, have at it.
I kind of like this one.
From a short
side. Yeah. So I think you could jump it, right? Like, where would you get short, I guess, would be the important question set up like this. Because you have to keep in mind, right? We're talking about charts and trading here, right? How to make money off of analyzing price action. When you're only, betting on a move, you said, Pat, the gap fills at 25.
Yeah.
So you're only getting a couple points. There's not a massive profit potential. Not always a terrible thing. I got into Bank of America earlier this week looking for like a point or two. So it's not the worst thing, but the entry, where you enter, becomes so much more important, right? For these tactical trades with shorter targets. So do you use the pivot lows or do you look for the gap?
To get for an entry, right?
Yeah, to get short.
I
gotta wait for 28. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I mean, maybe you get short right here and you put your stop right above these pivot highs, from last week there.
I would even say you jump it with a real tight stop here at the pivot lows and literally hope that you get follow through, or you'll probably be out tomorrow.
Yeah. But hey, the best trades are the ones that let you know pretty quick whether or not they're working. So
right.
I think keeping a short stop on it, keeping a short leash, whatever you want to say.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, two that I really like and am involved in long term. Chewy, love your stuff there. Shopify is one, and then when you're done with Shopify, no, his name is Chewy.
Oh, okay.
But what a dumpster fire this thing has become.
I know. I'm sorry. So
Shopify.
Okay.
And then we'll do energy fuels after.
All right. So Shopify, man, just kind of flatlining. Steve, I feel like we talk about this one a lot, don't we? This seems to be one that, and we were talking about these former darlings that have had a serious fall from grace. Shopify is one of them. And, everything had a fall from grace last year, but even something like a Meta, I mean, that's up 200% off its lows, maybe more. And this one, yeah, it's probably up nicely off its lows, but 123%. But in terms of how much of its decline it's retraced, hasn't even gotten to that 38.2 yet. So we talked about before, 38.2 gets you to 61.8. Can't even do that yet. So, talk to us when we're above that kind of thing. Or, that would get me interested. But so far it's looking heavy. I mean, you got momentum. Yeah, it didn't really hit a new high, but momentum's just not really in a bullish range. Couldn't get overbought here, on this up leg here. So not
You don't feel any better about it when you look at the daily?
okay, yeah, that's
Like
true.
just like would you consider this a completed base? Throw on the 200 day.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, if you were trading this more short term, and that's a good point, Steve. This is a clear level that is successfully holding. So, as long as it's above there, I think you probably got to look at those former pivot highs right around 70, 60, 68, 70. But yeah, no, that's a really good point. And on a daily here, not getting oversold. So a little bit better picture when you zoom in and look a little more tactically.
All right, let's try and hustle through a couple more because we got to wrap up here. UU.
All right, that is a 4Us, right?
I love this company. It's a uranium stock, but it also gives you some really cool exposure to rare earths.
Okay.
And vanadium.
You love your vanadium. I don't know what it is, what it's used for, but I only know it because of you.
Yep. They're big on doing business in the US too, which I'm also a fan of. Dude, if you zoom out enough on some of these uranium stocks, you got the nice base, and then you just have this like real prolonged consolidation off the 2020 lows. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say about a stock like this, Pat, is one thing we do as technicians is we weigh the evidence. So if I'm asking myself, where is this uranium stock likely to go? I'll look at other uranium stocks.
Yeah.
And right now, the strongest ones are resolving higher.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
NLR.
Right?
Do NLR now. That's URA.
Wow. Look at that. And even on that parabolic move, it's correcting as nicely as you can see it. I mean, that's the kind of action you want to see after a parabolic rise like that. We all know that's not going to move forever like that. But when it corrects, it's not this sharp correction down to the 200-day. It's this like more like flagging type action. And when it does go down, you're seeing that get bought up, right? These long wicks here. That's that's so.
Totally. Throw up Cameco real quick too, just the industry leader.
That is CCJ.
So some of these consolidations have already gone. Now, if you go back to UU,
and that thing's getting close to its all-time highs, man. Could you imagine the kind of trend that could develop?
I'm hoping for it, and I think the even better opportunity to buy these stocks comes on these monster-based breakouts. Like I'm talking about Cameco back above the all-time highs.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying the party hasn't even started yet. Like that's when it really gets going, right?
I think so. We'll see, right? We'll see.
Yeah. But
I think this would be a mega trend.
Could quietly work over time, and then it kind of has, right? Like you see these bouts where everyone gets excited about uranium, but then they kind of forget about it, and that process rinses and repeats until here we are, near those multi-year highs there. So back to you. Fibbed it out a little. We don't really need that. It's a little more messy than some of the others. We'll go into a daily here, but really nice, holding these former highs, or at least reclaimed them. Momentum far from oversold here, holding above, well, now it's above 50, but didn't even get close to 30 there. So that's pretty nice. I think in the near term, you want to see it take out $9. $9 could probably get you up to 11. And yeah, those are the Ooh, yeah, there's a nice shelf of resistance at 11 there.
All right, let's do Lulu quick.
Yeah, let's do it. Ooh, oh, you can see
Already
it.
marked up. Look at this. So you wrote about this one recently?
I probably have, or maybe not even recently. You know how these are. Like sometimes you'll leave up a level and then you'll go back to it a few months later and you're like, wow, that level came into play.
Right.
And here we are, it broke above it nicely. Nice gap up. I don't know what happened there a couple days ago. Looks like that was on Monday. We'll have to go and look at that. But even this pullback here, these last 3 days, holding that resistance level nicely. I think this gets you back as long as it's above this, as long as it holds this 400 level, that should get you back to all-time highs, which is around 480 there. But this is another one of those former leaders that's just been consolidating, been really messy since COVID, really, since the recovery.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, but I think the party really starts once it breaks that 480 level.
One more.
Yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
go.
But hey, look
Costco.
how it's holding that 200 day. Nice couple successful tests there.
I like it.
Said they can't act as support and resistance, right? What's the last one we got?
Costco.
All right.
What, news of a CEO departure today, right?
Costco. I saw a headline that Costco's selling gold bars now. What can't you buy at Costco? You can buy wedding rings. You can buy, my gosh.
Yeah, I bought glasses there too.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. So
Great chart.
that's pretty much your level. You often see these where you'll draw a level and then there's one piece of price action that really invalidates it. Those are usually false moves. So I have no problem drawing the level like this and leaving this to be its own little issue. Now, that being said, that can complicate things on a breakout, right? Because you still have this overhead supply to work through. So, ultimately I'd want to see it above that 600 level before I got really excited, but this is really nice constructive price action. And I think the reason that this was created is because there is overhead supply there. And every time we've gotten close to it, you have everybody who got caught off guard here, anybody who bought this strength here, who, immediately after buying got absolutely washed. They're just praying and praying and praying and praying. Please get me back to break even. Please get me back to break even. I'll never make a bad trade again. And then when it gets there, you get that pressure. And then, you keep getting that pressure until all of that overhead supply is absorbed and it's ready to move higher again. All those kind of weak hands have been washed.
I think if you're trying to jump an entry, you could use this level 570. But like you said, I think you get confirmation above those all-time highs 600.
Yeah. So a little bit messy, but constructive price action here. And this is a really long-term uptrend, and obviously there's kind of a theme here. A lot of these things have just been basing for the last 2 years. We're waiting for resolution. That could take months, but the point is these are very strong uptrends. A lot of these names you guys brought up, and if these consolidation patterns do resolve higher, that could that's it's meaningful move, right? Because bigger the base, the higher in space.
This stock should be in the Dow.
Yeah, that seems like a Dow name, right?
Yeah.
Very representative of America too. If you ever
Totally
into a Costco,
which is the Dow's mission statement to reflect the American economy.
Oh, interesting.
All right, Pat, that's it. Anything else?
No, had fun as always. I love this show.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This was Chart Request Live. We'll be right back here next week, Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8:30 for the morning show.
All right. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Steve.
Bye, everybody.